Hello, my name is Roland Wagner. In this video, I will give you an overview of the most important innovations we have released in recent months relating to CODESYS. In the fourth quarter, there were 2 product releases and a large number of updates for existing products. These updates bring security improvements, performance optimizations, and new features that will make your everyday work easier. CODESYS Online Help at helpme-codesys.com now offers an AI-supported chatbot. You can find it via the robot icon at the bottom right of the page. The bot answers questions about CODESYS and accesses the online help database directly. This means you always have the latest information on essentials, add-ons, and libraries at your fingertips without having to manually navigate through the documentation. Starting now, you can install and test the automation server on premises on your own infrastructure. This means you are independent of cloud providers or geopolitical circumstances and have control over your own data. Contact us at sales@codesys.com for access to the trial version. Service Pack 21 Patch 4 provides a comprehensive security update for all core components. Specifically, OpenSSL has been updated to version 3.2.6, Qt to 6.9.3, libxml2 to 2.15.1, libcurl to 8.16.0, expat to 2.7.3, and SQLite to 3.50.4. These updates close known security gaps in the open source components used. On targets with the compiler option report retain persistent update in cycle, the speed of online changes and code generation can increase significantly. In practice, this means less waiting time when transferring program changes to the controller. The logger configuration now supports path lengths longer than 31 characters. You can now define the log file path in 3 ways: the placeholder log file and the sysfile configuration, a relative or absolute path directly in the logger name, or a combination of both. This flexibility makes integration into existing logging infrastructures easier. A crash in the OPC UA server with multiple simultaneously connected clients and repeated connection interruptions has been fixed. A problem where the CPU load increased significantly after adding a device has also been resolved. For Linux runtimes, the number of supported CAN interfaces has been increased from 12 to 16. Version 4.7.0.0 of the communication add-on includes an important new feature for OPC UA integration. You can now export the OPC UA server configuration as a Node.set2 XML file. This file enables offline engineering of OPC UA clients. This means that you can configure the interface of your PLC without the controller having to be online. An architectural change affects OPC UA data sources. All data sources in an application now share a common OPC UA application client instance, with each data source having its own session. The application name and application URL can no longer be configured individually, but the session name can. By default, project name.data source name. When renaming applications, devices, or information model objects, the OPC UA namespace is now also updated correctly. Previously, the namespace was only adjusted when the device was renamed, which led to inconsistencies that have now been resolved. SoftMotion 4.20.0.0 introduces a new transition mode for robotics, TM axis distance. This mode enables blending between movements based on distances in the axis space. The start and end of the blending are specified as distances in the axis space, and the transition always takes place in the axis space. This gives you more control over the transition behavior for complex path movements. For CNC machining, the G-code G31, clear remaining path, has been implemented. A sample project for using this function is also included. In addition, a dry run mode is now available, which allows an additional speed limit for commissioning or debugging. An important compatibility changes affects SMC interpolator to dir. As of version 4.20.0.0, the function block SMC interpolator to dir slow task must be called from the same task that reads the G-code and processes the CNC path. Otherwise, errors may occur when reversing on the path. This is particularly relevant when distributing tasks across the different CPU cores. Version 4.20.1.0 fixes a critical error in access group processing that could lead to an access violation. If you are using version 4.20.0.0, we recommend updating to version 4.20.1.0. Visualization 4.9.0.0 features comprehensively revised input dialogues. Numpad keypad can now also be operated via the physical keyboard. You no longer have to switch between touch input and keyboard. For the keypad, you can now store different key assignments for different languages. In addition, there are new dialogues for special data types, such as date and time. Code generation has been optimized. The code size for alarm management and visualization has been reduced by around 20%. The total compilation time has been reduced by around 13%. This is particularly noticeable in larger projects. The flat style is now the default setting for new projects. In the Visualization Manager, you can also set a scaling factor for dialogues, useful for different display sizes. Version 4.9.1.0 fixes a bug that caused images not to be transferred to the controller when CODESYS was started without administrator rights. Other fixes relate to image pool warnings in deep library hierarchies and a freeze of CODESYS target visu under Linux Qt6 with overlays. The IIoT libraries now support the OAuth2 grant type device code on the web client. This authentication flow is suitable for devices without a browser or keyboard, where authentication takes place on a separate device. OAuth2 authentication is integrated into the mail service. This enables connection to email services that only accept modern authentication protocols, such as Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace. For Azure Event Grid, there is now a sample project for use with the MQTT client library. For MQTT clients, an error is now correctly set when the maximum number of publishers and subscribers is exceeded. The error max number of publisher and subscriber exceeded appears after setting X enabled or X execute. The libraries are compatible with both the current CODESYS base libraries 4.0.1 and the upcoming version 5.0. This means that you can upgrade projects that use the new IIoT libraries to the new base libraries version without any adjustments as soon as it becomes available. The scripting add-on introduces new methods for POU creation. Instead of the generic create POU method, there are now specific functions: create function block, and create program. Each function uses only the relevant parameters, which makes scripting clearer. Transient objects, such as call objects from tasks, can now be processed more effectively. The new methods find, ignore transient objects and finish load project, as well as the property is transient object, gives you control over whether transient objects are included in your search. You can now use a script to query the compiler version and set it to the latest available version. The methods are called get compiler version and set compiler version to newest. Project defines are now accessible via scripting, providing you are using compiler version 3.5.20.0 or newer. The setting can be found under Project Settings Project Defines. A new handling of prompts requires attention. For select many prompts without defined handling, the system is now issues a scripting missing prompt handling exception. This change is not backward compatible Scripts that previously worked without explicit prompt handling must be adapted. The deploy tool now displays clear error messages when packages cannot be installed due to missing dependencies. In the event of installation errors, you will now receive a list of the missing dependencies, which makes troubleshooting much easier. The IPK package format for Linux is now also supported for the Edge gateway. However, CodeMeter is not available as IPK at the moment. Raspberry Pi support has been updated to the current Bookworm Lite version as of May 2025. The C integration components have been moved to a separate extension SL package. If you integrate C code into your PLC application, you will need this additional package. The PubSub add-on now supports message security. This allows OPC UA PubSub messages to be transmitted in encrypted and signed form. The function is available from Runtime version 3.5 Service Pack 21 onwards. For runtimes prior to Service Pack 22, the same certificate must be used as for other OPC UA functions. The PubSub license now appears in the software metrics dialog of the license manager. The minimum version for use has been raised to CODESYS version 3.5 18.0. New non-blocking function blocks are available for accessing the list fbget language text and fbget language text w. These modules no longer block when execute is called, important for real-time applications where delays are unacceptable. Recipe management has been significantly accelerated. In particular, adding and removing many variables in the recipe definition editor and logging in/out while the recipe editor is open are now noticeably faster. For very large recipes with many variables, a compiler limit was reached, resulting in internal error unable to resolve label errors. The solution? Variables are now limited to a maximum of 5,000 per for loop. If the error persists, you can adjust the limit using the compiler-defined rec optimize max use rdef vars. Setting this value to 0 disables this limit. The new get recipe name size of function explicitly takes string length into account when retrieving recipe names. The automation server now offers you a central file system in the cloud. Store your clients and PLC's files there, for example, configuration files, recipes, databases, or documentation. You can also share the data from there with other users or transfer it from the central storage to all connected PLCs. Starting with the version 1.38.0.0 of the automation server connector, you can quickly and easily find the gateways you need in the development system. A new dialog lists all existing gateways in a clear table. Thanks to a search field and sortable columns, you can select the gateway you need and transfer it to the connection settings in the development system with just one click. During installation, you can now select local packages. This is useful if you have downloaded packages in advance or are working without internet access. The new file format, FBSWS, is supported and registered as a file type extension. You can open FBSWS files directly by double-clicking on them. Reference dependencies are now checked before a package installation. An installation is prevented if it would break existing reference dependencies of other installed packages. This version prepares for the transition to base libraries 5.0. To this end, an unbound placeholder resolution for the memory block manager has been integrated. Add-ons and projects that use this mechanism can switch safely between base libraries 4.0.1 and 5.x. Several CAA libraries will enter the service phase in the coming year. This means that these libraries will no longer receive new features and only critical bug fixes will be provided. CAA net-based services, CAA async manager, CAA list and tree, CAA segmented buffer manager, CAA memory block manager, CAA behavior model. Modern alternatives are available for these libraries. In new projects, use net-based services, async job manager, element collections, segmented buffer manager, memory block manager, and common behavior model instead. CAA real-time clock, CAA DT util extern, CAA FB factory. The functionality of these libraries can be better achieved by other means. For information on alternatives, see the help section under LibDev summary. UDP, TCP, ARP libraries. These internal libraries are only used by CAA net-based services and enter the service phase along with it. The following products will be discontinued within the next 12 months and will no longer be available after that. SMS service library in CODESYS IIoT libraries. New devices no longer support SMS messaging. Use alternative methods such as email or messaging services via the IIoT libraries for notifications. Support for Qt4 in the CODESYS target visu. Qt4 has not been officially supported since December 2015. There are no more security updates or bug fixes. Migrate to Qt5 or Qt6. These were the most important updates from the fourth quarter of 2025. Detailed information on all changes, release notes, and documentation can be found in the CODESYS store at store.codesys.com and in the online help. If you have any questions, please contact our support team. Thank you for watching and see you in the next quarterly video.